Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of the newly formed Oodua Nation.
I keep the Zoom area free of those who are not likely to participate. Those who are within the Zoom area, apart from the speakers, I refer to them as commentators. So the order of proceeding generally is to invite my guest speakers to share their knowledge with us. And I will also invite those who wish to comment on just what has been said. I wish to emphasize that we don't deviate from the topic. We stick rigidly, I'm afraid, to what we have heard. It's almost like a court. What you haven't heard is not available to be commented upon. I'd like to make that very clear before we start. So let me go straight on to one of our speakers of today, the keynote speaker, who I met in 1999. It's so interesting that when I met him in 1999, conflict was around. I think same situation, exactly the same situation. A total breakdown of order in Kaduna. That was when I had the privilege of meeting with a team of clergymen.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is Kaka.
I'm afraid we've already started, so please just.
I'm on with you.
You're very kind. Thank you for joining us, Senator Kaka.
Thank you. Yeah, God bless you.
Thank you. May I ask the studio to mute everyone if it's possible? So I was saying the keynote speaker for today is someone I had the most interesting encounter with. That was in 1999. And it's fascinating that what led to my meeting him for the first time is the same reason why I am encountering him again for the second time. 1999, we had the Kaduna crisis. This time we have the, shall I call it the NSAS crisis. Let me introduce my keynote speaker for today. He's the Right Reverend Josiah Atkins Idowu Ferron. He's a Nigerian Anglican bishop, an indigene of Kogi State, born somewhere called Kerinje. I hope I've pronounce that well. He's a Nupe man, a prominent Christian leader, but a very interesting man. He in 2015, he made history that anybody who holds a Nigerian passport should be proud of. He became the Secretary General of the Anglican Consultative Council. That means he's the second in command to the Archbishop of Canterbury, who is, shall I say, religious-wise, next to Queen Elizabeth, the Queen of England. He was briefly a soldier. And at some point during his life as a soldier, he was called to be a soldier in the army of Olodumare. He's had many controversies, many controversies, including as a Christian Anglican bishop. Against all odds, he established a center for the study of Islam in his Kaduna Christian diocese. Can you imagine? Very interesting indeed. A Christian bishop decided to establish a center for the study of Islam. He himself embraced Christianity in 1964, although he was born in 1949. The Right Reverend Josiah Idowu Ferron. Each time anybody hears that word Idowu Ferron, they always wonder if he's a Yoruba man. Can I have everybody muted, please? Everyone wonders whether Idowu, that's the third child after twins, whether he's a Yoruba man or not. So here we have somebody with experience of having been directly involved in conflict, here to share his thoughts with us on the topic we have chosen, and that's conflict and humanity. Please join me to welcome the Right Reverend Josiah Atkins Idowu Ferron. Welcome, Bishop Josiah. Delighted to see you again. It's over to you. You have 20 minutes to share your thoughts with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Because we're in England, I call her Lola. No, I don't pronounce it correctly, but please forgive me. I have, because I have 20 minutes, I will not say anything about Lola that you all don't know. You already know her very well. But it is nice to see Professor Akiyemi. I know we did begin speaking about the Lambeth conference, and then he suddenly disappeared. I don't know why he disappeared from the conversation, but that's for another time. Friends, brothers and sisters, our country attained independence in 1960, and we have only just marked here, I didn't say celebrate, marked our 60th anniversary. Nigeria has gone through, and we are still going through, a lot of evolutions in search for a system that will provide 4 things I have identified. 1, a sense of belonging to a nation, for us to feel Nigerian. 2, a sense of security, that I'll be able to travel from Lagos to Benin, Kaduna to Kano, Kano to Maiduguri, without being afraid, without being attacked, and to be able to sleep with my 2 eyes closed in my house in Kaduna. Thirdly, a sense of equal treatment by whoever is in government. And fourthly, to have even development in every part of Nigeria. That is, if I'm in, say, Lafia State, for example, I want to see signs of development as in Lagos, in Ibadan, in Maiduguri, and other parts of the country. Unfortunately, at 60, these aspirations and expectations are yet to be achieved in spite of all the good Lord has blessed Nigeria with. Now, I am made to understand that one of the objectives of this forum is to find ways and means to achieving these aspirations and many more. I would therefore want to begin by expressing our appreciation to our dear sister, Sister Lola, Erelu Tunwase.
Well done, Bishop.
Thank you so much for your vision and commitment to this cause. Let me, in passing, just say this, that I do hope that you will reach out to the rest of us who are not of Oodua race, those of us from Nupe, the Nupe land, the Hausa land, the Kanuri land. Please try and open it a bit wider so that even those from the eastern states will be able to join in. Now, I Googled a few days ago causes of conflicts in Nigeria. And interestingly enough, I came about 15 causes. Unfortunately, my time is limited, but I will just zap through the 15. 1, hate speech. 2, dual ideology of the Constitution. That is, our Constitution is said to be secular, and yet there is Sharia in our Constitution. Thirdly, university and polytechnic dichotomy. That is, those of my sisters and brothers who who go to polytechnics are treated as second-class degree holders. Then you have marginalization. Wealth and resource control do not go round. That is what is meant by marginalization. Resource control. Then we have farmers and herdsmen clashes, amalgamation. I only just got to know that actually that document had a lifespan. It started in 1914, and those who push it say it actually expired in 2014, and therefore there is a problem. They feel Nigeria should be dissolved completely. It's a source of conflict. So, and I go on to talk about favoritism and nepotism. Then we have propaganda, that is where you demean a contestant for a political position. I want to be very controversial. When you have somebody from the north, Yoruba will say, Araoke, you know, Gambari. I'm a Nupe man, I'm not a Gambari. And even amongst the Nupe, we have 6 different types of Nupes, because you have Kakanda, you have Gana, you have Basange, and so on. Don't lump all of us together. Just as the Yoruba will say to the Northerner, don't lump all of us together. Yes, we are Odudua, but we have different types. So that's another problem. Tribalism is a problem. Pipeline vandalization and bunkering. Then, of course, religious intolerance, disobedience to the rule of law, corruption, inept leadership, and fuel scarcity. These are 15 sources of conflict that I stumbled on. I'm sure people like Prof and all of you who've been working in these areas, you have a bit more, but here are the real difficulties we have in our country. However, I want to quickly say, there is no country, no nation that does not have conflicts. The problem is how to manage these conflicts. And management of conflicts has to do with leadership. So I want to zero in on that. Now, I'm a religious leader and not a partisan politician. So I want to speak to our topic on how our religious professions in Nigeria could be positively used to achieve these objectives that I enumerated earlier on. Now, I must confess again that I do not specialize in African traditional religions. My area of specialization is Islamic studies. Of course, I'm a Christian and I studied theology. At least my first degree is in theology, and all the others are in Islamic studies. So I would not be able to say much, anything at all about African traditional religions. I leave that to those who are specialists. So let us focus, therefore, on humanity, because humanity is very crucial in the search in our country for solutions to our conflicts. What do we mean by humanity? The first thing to understand under this subhead is that there is only one human race. The Bible affirms that, the Quran affirms that, and I will come to that very shortly. Whether you're an African, a Caucasian, an Asian, Indian, or Arab, or Jew, these are different races or ethnicities of the human race. We are all of one human race. Let's quickly look at the biblical perspective. All human beings have the same physical characteristics, of course, with minor variations. More importantly, all human beings are created in the image and the likeness of God. That you read about in Genesis. Now, the Bible says, God so loved the world. The world there is not restricted to Nigeria. The world there is not restricted to Yoruba land, Nupe land, Hausa land, or to England, the whole world. The world is not restricted to the Muslim or the Christian or the traditional worshiper. It is all of us. We are all together in this world. That is what the Bible affirms. And what the Bible therefore expects is that we all should treat one another as people of one race. I go quickly to the Quran and the Hadith, and I will spend some time on this because we have problems. Let me just pause here and say, from my studies, I have come to a conclusion that the Yoruba people in Nigeria have so much to teach those of us who do not come from that race in terms of religion. Particularly the way the Yoruba people come together, irrespective of whether you are a traditional worshiper, you are a Christian, or a Muslim. Now, where is the source for this oneness in the Quran? Reference is made by numerous scholars in recent times, particularly to the concept of brotherhood in humanity. The Quranic basis for this concept is the repeated emphasis on the shared parentage of the entire human race, as it is in Christianity. The Quran says, chapter 49, verse 13, "O mankind, Indeed, we created you from a single male and female and made you into nations and tribes. Shubba Kabila. Why? The Quran is very clear. Lita'arafu, that you may understand one another. It's very clear in the Quran. You can't miss it. Now, both ancient and modern Muslim scholars are in agreement that according to the Quran, and from this verse in particular, the objective of coexistence is not to seek superiority and domination over different people, but to reach mutual understanding by knowing each other. Lita'arafu. That is a very strong concept in the Quran. I have here scholars like Sayyid Qutb and also Muhammad al-Tabatabai, both of them concentrating on the need for people to see themselves as one person, one race, one humanity, and to understand. For those of you who do not know, this concept of lita'arafu is the foundation of the promotion of knowledge, education in Islam. You must understand. So I want, therefore, quickly to zap through what I have prepared to say, if God created us as different tribes, Yoruba, Nupe, Hausa, Igala, Gana, whatever you have, is deliberate so that the Yoruba will understand the Hausa will understand the Ijebu will understand the Edo will understand the Igala. Therefore, for me, when we look at our topic, conflict, which are inevitable, conflicts are inevitable, but if we now zero in on humanity, God deliberately creating us differently so that we'll understand ourselves, conflicts, therefore, should not lead to the sort of things we have just experienced in Lagos and many parts of Nigeria today. Now, the final thing I want to say is this. These killings, these destructions, these embedded hatred in our country could be avoided if we had good leadership. By good leadership, I mean, in Nigeria, when you pick 10 people, at least 8 of them will profess to be Christian and Muslim. The other 2 will profess to be traditional worshippers in one form or another. So belief in God is very, very pronounced in our country. Now, my difficulty with belief in God is that a good number of us believe in God, but we behave as people who have no knowledge of God. Everything, along everything, wallahi. You know the meaning of wallahi? It's a swear word. You know? We swear in the name of this God, but we behave as people who do not even know God. We're like atheists. We profess to be Muslims and Christians who believe in God, but the way we behave shows that we don't believe in God at all. So when people say believe in God or fear God, yes, please fear God. There is no doubt about that. But fearing God is not the solution. Obedience to God is the solution. And therefore, for us to be able to ameliorate, to be able to reduce these conflicts, that are hindering development in our country, and by that I mean even development. I would want to see my part of the country be as developed as a state like Lagos. I would want to see my own home state, which is Kaduna. Kaduna is my adopted state. I would want to see Kaduna State becoming an example, and that is what is happening now in Kaduna State, becoming an example to others. What we need is leaders who have the following characteristics: who are honest, who have integrity, who are competent, who are very inspirational, who are very patient, and very humble. Today, most of our politicians lack these characteristics. And because they know they can divide us on the basis of our being ignorant of one another, because Yoruba people don't understand those who are not Yoruba. Those who are not Yoruba don't understand those who are Yoruba. So there is a need to intensify opening up of minds, getting to know ourselves, and getting to know our religious professions. Because Islam and Christianity, they share a lot in common. And if our leaders will only live by the tenets of Islam, if they are Muslims, or Christianity, if they are Christians, we should be able to develop our nation, which is a gift from God. Finally, let me say this. A lot of our politicians use religion for their own selfish ends. I'm hoping that Nigerians will become wiser when 2023 comes. If, as a bishop, I want to go into politics, I will drop my title as bishop. I will drop being a church leader and go into politics. It is something I'm raising for this audience. I want us to actually look at it, because if we want to avoid conflict as one humanity, people must stop using religion for their political ends. I want to stop here, but I will make my paper available if it is wanted. It's about 10 pages, which I'm happy to make it available. Thank you for this privilege.
Thank you very much, Bishop Josiah. If you've just joined us, you have just experienced a teacher, a preacher, someone who is next in command to the Archbishop of Canterbury. Archbishop of Canterbury is the senior bishop and principal leader of the Church of England, known in Nigeria's Anglican Communion. I can't tell you how long it's taking me to be able to get Bishop Josiah to be here as Olodumare wished it, to talk about what he spends his time facilitating understanding of and opening doors for cohesion. He's a teacher, he's a preacher. Bishop, the reason why I limited you to just 20 minutes is because you're very, very hard to get hold of. Now that I've got you for 3 hours today, I've got a lot of questions for you. But let me go straight on to my next speaker. And I am so fortunate today. I'm so happy. I'm very happy because the next speaker is someone also have been chasing after and saying, Daddy, you have to come. You got to come and talk. You got to come here, Daddy. You got to come. I hope I have the brother calling me Daddy. But this is my daddy. He's an indigene of Elisha. This is most respected ministers of foreign affairs. A Nigerian professor of political science. and a former minister of Nigeria External Affairs from 1985 to 87, and the national chairman of something called, the chairman of the national think tank. Ooh, an ex-Igbobi college students, Igbobians, I'm sure. You'll be pleased that I've mentioned Igbobi College, a former director of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, and somebody just like Bishop Josiah involved in promoting good quality relationship. Incidentally, relationship between, can you believe, Nigeria and Anglo-Saxons. If you've been looking at the social media lately, all these blames, the problems that the British seems to have caused. Now, he's also a prolific writer who has authored many books. When you see my next guest speaker, you wouldn't imagine he has radical views and beliefs about political life and issues. He has also successfully mentored a lot of accomplished individuals in Nigeria. Who am I talking about? Yes, His Excellency, Professor Bolaji Akiyemi. Welcome. It's over to you. Please share your thoughts with us. You also have 20 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Erelu. Actually, I was going to offer to give maybe half of my time to the Most Reverend Archbishop, so he could expand more on his theme. First of all, I'm confused. The last time I met His Lordship, his title was Archbishop. So I'm a bit confused that even he refers to himself as Bishop, and you refer to him as a Bishop.
Yes.
I mean, with my background in the Anglican Communion, my father was a canon in the church. My elder brother was a venerable, now that's an archdeacon, and I know the title doesn't come down. So, my Lord, which is it? Archbishop or Bishop?
I'm an archbishop.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Your Grace. Because, I mean, if I refer to him as the Right Reverend, that's the wrong appellation. He's the Most Reverend. That's what our archbishops are. And it's a pleasure to meet you again, Your Grace. I still remember our interaction in Abuja several years ago. But as you can see, things have gone from bad to worse since then. I would like, so apart from getting the title right, please let me, in making a correction with respect, because I need to make a point with the correction. Your Grace did say that our union, the 1914 amalgamation, I would say might have expired. I'm sorry, this is one of those false narratives that is going around. Let me make a few clarifications. Number one, there is no document signed by, is it 10 Nigerians that they are saying, no, it doesn't exist. They are making that in order to advance to the next argument that the amalgamation was a contract between Nigeria and the British. No such thing. The amalgamation was an idea of Lord Rogard, sold to London, to the colonial secretary, who then took it to Parliament and got it approved by a Privy Council document. Erelu knows the in and out of the workings of the British government. So it was a British document. It has no expiry date. In classical international law, there is the doctrine of expiry of documents, but is applicable only when it is contractual. The amalgamation was forced on us. There was no Nigeria anyway before the amalgamation, so it doesn't have an expiry date. It's our problem. We have to face that problem. We have to solve the problem and not starting to look for esoteric solutions to it. People have suggested, oh, we should go to the international court. Who will go to the international court? It's only a state that can go to the international court. And I don't see Nigeria going to the international court to ask for the dissolution of itself. We can't go to the British Supreme Court. We will have no locus there. So it is necessary to get that clear. But let me admit that it is frustration about the problems facing Nigeria, looking for the solution that has led people to looking here and there for that solution. Don't be surprised if my own emphasis is on conflicts in international relations rather than conflict in Nigeria. I hold it as a fact that the reason why in every religion and in every society there are what a political scientist will call rules and regulations. And I expect that religious-minded people will call divine laws, is because conflict is so endemic in our DNA. I am now not talking about Nigeria, but we as human beings, conflict is endemic in our DNA. From the Garden of Eden, there was no conflict when God put Adam and Eve there. And then a third party came in and succeeded in persuading one of those parties to disobey the law. And of course, you know what happened from then on. If you go to the Code of Hammurabi in what is now Iraq, and that came actually before the biblical laws, you will find a lot of laws there to govern relationship between individuals. And so, and why will you have this if there are no conflicts? It is embedded in our DNA. So really, there is no way that we will abolish conflict. It is how do we manage the conflicts? The conflicts will arise. It may not even be from fundamental differences. It could be from what people will regard as minor things. If you go through the history of the Roman Empire, Rome will invade another area simply because it wanted to expand Roman influence. It may even know nothing about where it's about to invade, except it wants to expand its own influence. The greed that is embedded in a group wanting to simply expand its influence. One of the things I found fascinating about the Old Testament is I'm not going to stray into the territory of the Archbishop. I wouldn't dare do that. But you know, there's that passage about it was that time of the year when kings went to war. He didn't tell us what for, but at that time of the year, if you're a king, you've got to go to war to expand your territory. No other reason. The people you're expanding your territory to may not even be your enemy. They may not even have any differences with you. But if you're a king, you go to war. That's why you're a king. And if it's that time of the year where you can't just sit at home, even your people will be pressing you to go to war. And therein lies the source of conflict in international relations. And that's the problem that leaders have. I've been a student of American presidential elections since 1960. And I've been fascinated by one factor. Each candidate tries to outmaneuver the other candidate in, I will be tough on the rest of the world. I will be just so that he will not be accused of being soft on the others, whoever the others may be. When Kennedy and Nixon were campaigning, it was to avoid being accused of being soft on communism. Therefore, each one promised it was going to club the Soviet Union on the head. Now, it is who is going to clobber the Chinese on the head. Never mind that they won't clobber. Once somebody gets into power, it's not going to be stupid enough to clobber the Chinese. But then, your people, it then becomes a catch-99 situation. On one hand, your people want a strong leader. And so you promise them that you are going to be tough on other people. But you know, once you get into power, you now ask your advisors to design policies, how you will manage your relationship with, quote unquote, the enemy. But your people are not aware that you have left them hanging. Because your people are not included in this situation where you explain to them why you cannot go to war with the Chinese, why you cannot go to war with the Iranians, why you cannot go to war with Abuja. You cannot explain that to your people, because if you go and explain that to your people, the other side now knows you are scared. Oh, so all this was just talk. And then stupidly enough, the other side that's been making the same mistakes you are making now decide to take advantage of that. You don't want to be taken advantage of. So you get caught in this catch-99 situation. And that's one of the sources of conflict in international relations. Perception of power, perception of status. Is a smart and wise leader who then somehow manages the contradictions within behavior. Let me give you an illustration. During the Cuban crisis between the United States and the Soviet Union, that was the closest that the Americans and the Soviet Union came close to a nuclear war. The closest. Kennedy didn't want to appear to be weak. And Khrushchev, on the other hand, didn't also appear to be weak. Fortunately, for both sides, they knew they had intelligence apparatus to hack into their own communications within each other's country. So they knew what each one of them was doing. And because they knew that, they were also sending messages through the system that they knew had been hacked. Kennedy has signaled that they should move atomic weapons onto launching pads. Khrushchev had also sent messages to his own military high command to move their own atomic weapons to the launching pad. So both of them knew that they were on what we call DEFCON 3. They had only one more step to go before those weapons were launched. So, in other words, both sides knew the situation where they were in. Then the Americans sent a secret message to the Secretary General of the United Nations. If Russia will not back down, we want you, as Secretary General, to issue a call on both sides to reduce the level of their atomic preparations and give the commitment to the United Nations that they were not going to launch those weapons. But it was a secret message. Nobody was supposed to know about it. Kennedy said he will now give a speech that out of respect for the United Nations, he was going from DEFCON 3 to DEFCON 1, step down 2 steps. And that he was now calling on the Soviet Union to do the same. So he was waiting for that to make that concession should that situation arise. What the Soviets were asking for was, we would de-escalate if you promise to pull your weapons out of Turkey. You've had military weapons in Turkey, which shares the same boundary with us. There are American atomic weapons there, breathing down our neck. If you promise us you will remove those weapons, we now will agree to pull out the weapons from Cuba. That's what we want. And after the usual things diplomats do back and forth, Kennedy said, okay, I promise, but you must not tell anybody that I promise to pull those weapons out. That's number one. Number two, I will not pull those weapons out immediately. But if you pull your weapons out of Cuba, 6 months, give me 6 months. So people in my country will not relate both. I will pull those weapons out of Turkey. And that's what happened. But you see, neither the Russians nor the American people knew all these background dealings going on. And that's what wise leaders do. And I agree with the Archbishop. Wise leaders, foolish leaders lead their people to the edge of the precipice and push them over. Wise ones, when they get to the edge of the precipice and they look over, they find ways to pull their people back. It's a stupid leader that goes to war. Having said that, it depends, of course, on your power status. It depends on your power status. If I decide to go onto the street and I see the Nigerian army coming down the street and I still stayed there and I say, down with Buhari, down with Buhari, well, you know who's going to go down. It's not going to be Buhari. It's going to be me standing there. Now, that has just shown you the power status. My mother used to give a proverb, which I really didn't know what it meant at that time, except I know she was warning me that if I didn't stop doing what I was doing, she was going to make sure that I regret doing what I was doing. And that's what, if you recall, Dina Melai now turned into a song. And it's your to yako, ton dano deni, aje kui ya nioje. If Nigeria decides to challenge the United States, aje kui ya nioje. You can't. But the Soviet Union can. China can. Even Iran can. It doesn't mean that the United States cannot clobber Iran, but the price that the United States will pay for clobbering Iran, the United States will not be prepared to pay it. So I can see you looking at your watch. So I suppose my time is up, Irelu. So equity is a good religious concept and legal concept. But the problem for us scholars of international relations is equity is difficult to come by in both domestic and international relations. when in asking for a state of your own, you demonize the state where you are presently incorporated. You tell all kinds of lies about them. They do this to you, they are evil people, blah, 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 just because you want a state of your own. When you get a state of your own, do you think of what your relationship will be with the people you have demonized? And that is often why when you get a new state created, the old state says, all civil servants who come from that new state, pack your load and go. I mean, after all, you say we are wicked people. You have said we've treated you badly. And so, okay, now you have the state of your own. And that creates a bad relationship, conflict relationship between the old state and the new state. So I will stop there. But just let me make one more point, and I will hang up. There is the problem in Nigeria, which is not different from whether you are talking about Iraq, Syria, Thailand, or anywhere else. There is a lack of consensus about objectives and about processes. Each group has its own grievances, each group, and has its own fears. The job of the leaders of all the groups is how to get together to deactivate these fears, deactivate these grievances. If, for example, this is going to be the last sentence. If, for example, poor states in Nigeria fear that in resource control, they will be denied the resources for development, then all you are going to do is to put in your constitution that there is this level below which we will not allow any state to fall. And that if any state falls below that level, the federal government will make available what I will call equity fund to bring it back up. That will allay the fears of people who think they'll be condemned to poverty if you have resource control. I thank you very much for this opportunity to share these views with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wow. What a session. At last, I finally get the opportunity to have you share your expertise with us. Please join me wherever you are to thank His Excellency, Professor Bolaji Akiyemi. Wow, interesting session. Thank you very much indeed, sir. May I thank you? You know, you've been a mentor to so many. You've been gradually mentoring me as well, and you have brought it onto the program again. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Archbishop Josiah. That's little saying. Thank you very much for that amendment. Let me proceed. One of the reasons why I've kept the duration allowed for good quality speakers that I've got today is such that people who miss one aspect or to be able to catch another and have many questions for them. And you know, human concentration sometimes happen to be a challenge. Let me proceed straight away, but I cannot proceed without, first of all, expressing my sincere gratitude to the source via which I have found my next speaker. I want to warmly welcome, you know, in Yoruba land, Archbishop, they say Bino baku, aferu boju, bogede baku, afomorokbo. I'm going to need Professor Akiyemi to put that into English for me.
Oh, Lord. Oh, now, Erelu, you are putting me on. Eminent parents produce eminent children.
You see the point?
Eminent parents produce eminent children. Eminent parents don't go, they may die in this flesh, but they continue to be with us through their children. So eminent parents produce eminent children.
Wow, thank you very much for that. Wonderful. And you will see when I tell you who I want to express gratitude to. And it's no other than Her Excellency, Ambassador Dr. Olatukumbo Awolowo Dosumu, who is exactly as Professor has just explained, a daughter of an eminent personality, the founder, the founder of Yoruba Nation, many of us believe, and that's our late Papa, who continues to live on, Papa Obafemi Awolowo. Whilst it's a warm welcome to her, but I was just reflecting on who she is. You know, when you talk about transferable skills, Her Excellency is a physician, and what do physicians do? It's about medicine, potion, this potion, it's not only traditionalists who are into all these potion, the physicians get into it. And also they are healers. They heal in a variety of ways. And I have found my relationship with Yeye Oba Linyogu of Remoland so meaningfully healing and enabling. So I want to warmly welcome you, and also again to express condolence for the loss of your sister, and thank you for being here. It's grieving time, but people like yourself cannot be allowed to grieve, I dare say, other than to say, when we need you, when we need our Papa Awolowo, we can always bring you on. And I want to thank you for helping me when I was stuck. Many hours I would call her, yeah, and then I'll send her messages about this Agba Konitoni Oodua, and you're always there. Thank you very much indeed for what you do. I want to use this to welcome, shall I say, the senator. When you said, I know who, I said I was looking for, somebody like this. She said, okay, let me reflect, You see, apart from myself, who is a traditionalist, His Grace, the Archbishop, is an Anglican. Mama Awolowo is an Anglican. And of course, my daddy is an Anglican. But I want to tell you a secret. My grandmother was a CMS. You see that? So I'm part and parcel of it. Let me bring in my next speaker, who is, again, somebody, a very interesting gentleman. Once upon a time, he was a deputy governor during the tenure of former governor of Ogun State, Chief Olusegun Oshoba. Once upon a time, he was a teacher, I believe Muslim College in Ishagamu. And again, director of an insurance brokers company. Likewise, livestock feeds. What a combination. I have to say he served as a senator for the Federal Republic of Nigeria, representing Ogun East Senatorial District. He's an indigene of Ijebu-Igbo, Ogun State, Southwest Nigeria, a devout Muslim and a philanthropist with particular interest in youth empowerment. Who better for me to have when we are all reeling in the aftermath of our success or otherwise of enabling our young people to take on the leadership. Please welcome again another Excellency, Senator Adegbenga Sheffield Kaka. Welcome to you, and likewise, 20 minutes to share your thoughts with us. Over to you.
Wow. I want to thank you, the organizer, Erilu Tunwache. And I want to extend my courtesies to all my Egbons at this meeting, starting from Professor Bolaji Akiyemi, and of course, our own bishop, maybe I should say Archbishop, that you can understand if there's any error on my part. So this will be the third time I will have the opportunity of listening to the Archbishop, and I wasn't disappointed at all. And to my own dear sister, my darling Egbon, the daughter of our sage, Dr. Mrs. Latokumbo, Awolowo Dosumu, I greet you, ma. Personally, I was uncomfortable to be in the midst of the three giants because I was wondering from where do I start. But with what I've listened to from the Archbishop, most especially from the spiritual point of view, and of course, a little of the national problem, and the international perspective given to issue of conflict by my papa. If I say papa, I haven't missed the road. It's over 80, and I'm just aspiring to be 70. He knows that I adore him and I respect him a lot. So ordinarily, I would just say that maybe there's nothing for me to add to what they have said than to listen to Her Excellency and then say, okay, please stand up, Erilu. But with their due permission, I will go to the basics. And when I say that, a little bit of spirituality, to borrow from the Archbishop, and then a little bit of science, and politically, from the perspective of the Professor Akiyemi and Dr. Awolowo Dosumu. They were all my mentor and seniors. To start with, I'm sure because I came late, conflict must have been defined. And to say you have a conflict, it is usually said that it takes two to tango. Except the conflict is within you, because we have personalized internal conflict, whereby within your mind, you have divided thoughts and you don't know where to place yourself. So if you have that, you just have to go internally and reconcile yourself with the reality. Because most of we forget the reality and then we start chasing the shadow. That is an aspect. Beyond that one, it can be between one or two persons. But whichever way, or even community, national and international, it has been a nation creation. And we discovered that beyond the real world itself, to make it what it is, we live in terms of plants, and animal, whether it is large animal, small animal, or the Homo sapien.
I do apologize. I think we've lost the sound. We can't hear you anymore.
I hope I'm still on.
No, you're just back. We lost you for about a minute. We lost you for about a minute.
Okay.
Yes. Please go ahead. Thank you.
So living things, in case of plants, they are living, but they have no motion. So once they don't have any motion, even if there's any attacker coming to them, whether with axe, with fire, they are just immutable at it. Stand still until they have motion. In case of any attack, they can move away from the zone of danger. And it applies to all animals. Then because we Homo sapiens, we have brain, then we adjust. Not just keeping away, we find a way of dancing around the danger. So that's where we are a bit different from other animals. And from Darwin's theory that all living things, all matters, constant state of motion, whereby they move from one place to the other, they meet challenges, they dodge the challenges, or exert influence on that challenges. Whichever way it is, he propounded the theory of survival of the fittest. In which case, in the course of meeting the challenges, you are either consumed or you weather the storm to remain alive. So when we are now talking, I recollect that the Archbishop made mention of what happened in the Garden of Eden. No, it is Professor Akiyemi also. What happened in the Garden of Eden? We had Adam and Eve until the serpent came in and misled them. Assuming that the two of them were in serene condition, no interference, maybe what we'll be having right now will be peace. But in the absence of peace, which could probably have been like the peace of the graveyard, then we now start having conflict. In the process of having conflict, it now varies. Because we are given the intellect, there are those that are naturally greedy, like Prof said, that the DNA is ingrained in human DNA. So with it there, it will naturally be coming up from time to time, wanting to take advantage of others. And if you want to take advantage of others, we know the consequences. You either get into a mild conflict of exchange of words, or you go into physical, and to the extreme, you get involved in war. So in most cases, the heart was created by God with all things that are needed by human being provided. More than enough for everybody to have a little bit and then be contented. But because of the greediness, because of the fear that, okay, this thing might not be enough for me, you find people wanting to take more than they needed. They want to take advantage of others. The resultant effect will be that in the process of doing so, once there's a resistance, then the conflict ensues. And that conflict, depending on the dimension, then it could be resolved within the two persons involved, and it could go to the level of uncontrollable dimension, that they will need a third party, a fourth party, or even to get issued. So looking at what God has created us for, then we will now go back to the spirituality as enunciated by the Archbishop, in the sense that human being, we are created to be able to decipher what is good for us and what is not good for us. Hence, I have my own belief. As a Muslim, my Egbons, they happen to be Christians, but none of them had choice in being born where they were born, in being born into which religion they were born. Some were even born into idol worshiping, only for them to change midway. I much love tolerance. Say religious tolerance. What is religious tolerance? By the time I could spend money to go to school to learn mathematics, learn physics, learn agriculture, learn what's contained in the Holy Book, the Bible, in the Holy Quran, we remain ignorant of what the message was. And then we continue to say tolerance. You can only tolerate an irritant. It is when something is an irritant or somebody is an irritant, you say you are tolerating, hoping that it will soon vamoose and get away from you. But you have to learn to live together, because we are from the same source. All of us are from God. In fact, all that is happening in Nigeria is only pitiful. I know that we have about 7 billion population in the whole world. Out of that 7 billion, you put the Christians and the Muslims together, they are not up to 50%. And they want to claim it is only through them they can get to God. They want to claim and say, after listening, to recognize that he has the understanding of what is contained in the Bible and what is contained in the Quran. That is the minimum expectation from anybody that is professing to lead. Once you are not superior in knowledge, once you don't have understanding of contemporary religion, of contemporary social interaction, you are not fit to lead. You can't lead because you will be misleading the people. And that is what we are seeing, many of the leaders becoming misleaders of the youth, becoming misleaders of even their own children. That's why in some cases, you will have Papa and Mama who belongs to a particular denomination, having 6, 7 children, and all of them going to different churches, as if there is a difference in the Bible. It is only one book containing the same message from the Almighty God. As far as Quran is concerned, yes, anybody can have a society just like in the church, but there is no way, once you uphold single Almighty God in unity, and then you also believe in oneness of the prophets, and as enjoying you believe in all other prophets. Once you have the knowledge, you have the understanding, you don't need to discriminate against anybody. Moses was warned. Holy Prophet Muhammad was one. I don't want to dabble into the issue of the Christ because there are some little areas that are contentious. But the warning was so simple. When they were annoyed that the people were not embracing the messages they were passing, God had chastised them that, hi, there's no compulsion in religion. La ikra fi din. No compulsion in religion. You are just a warner. Warn the people. Whether leave the judgment to me, I am the judge, not you. So if God could do that one to the prophet, the messenger of his, then who are we? Who are we to want to judge? So we have our own shortcomings here and there, and that is why I will also agree with the Archbishop that we are blessed in Yoruba land. We are blessed in that within a single unit, a single family unit, you have Muslim, Christian, and other traditional worshippers cohabiting. Erelu, when you call on me, I told you that through the instrumentality of the education I had distinction in Yoruba and some of the Ijile. When we say Ijile, we are talking of Ijile Onwifa. I imbibe some of them. That was how I know that, okay, fine. As we pray to God, the God is the same as Olodumare. Is the same for we Muslim and for the Christian. The God is just one and only one God. And in the sense of, in the course of it, we now realize that there's no point fighting one another. Leave God to be the ultimate judge at the end of the day by the time we are no more on this planet. But most often, some people want to arrogate that judgment power to themselves, which is rather unfortunate. Ditto happened to conflict on Comuna because of land created by Almighty God. Somebody got to the land first, then another appropriated about 10 hectares to himself. Another one came, 100 hectares. And before you know what is happening, they've started fighting. This is my boundary. That is your boundary. Then, ultimately, communal strife ensures. They will now go to the level of fighting and eliminating the life they are not capable of creating. That is where the fear of God is absent in virtually all of us. Otherwise, we will know that the land belongs to God and all the treasures underneath, on the surface, in the air, everything belongs to God. Take little, and it's inexhaustible. Take the little you can and the rest. So these are things that we must have done. Justice done in our respective home by being good father, good mother, good brothers and sisters. Justice done among husband and wife. Justice done among the extended family. And by extension, within the community. Once the justice is done, then you have sort of peace. You have unity. And it is in the where justice resides that you have peace residing. That is where from peace you can have unity. And from unity you derive development. So prosperity will be our Lord. But rather than doing what is right in sequential order, we preach prosperity without doing what is expected. If I take care of my own community, of my own family, and Professor Akiyemi refuses to take care of his own family, you know there's bound to be conflict among our children later in the day. But once we do it, and we teach them to say that, okay, then
thank you.
All Lord follow. No issue of anybody appropriating what does not belong to them to themselves. Business privilege in you. Do we obey it? Even to pay tithe, to pay what is called in the Muslim world.
We may have, if you've just joined me, a very warm welcome. We may have temporarily lost the network to Senator Kaka. I'll just wait for a moment or two to see if he can rejoin us. Right, okay. I think it's time to go on to the next speaker. And the next speaker is going to be an inroad to solution. Viewers all over the world, and I'm getting lots of questions there, viewers all over the world have been asking one major question. Could what has happened in Nigeria, could it have been averted? And not just in Nigeria. In London, concerns also raised whether what's happening in London could have been averted. So I want to go to my next speaker, and because we are now coming to solution, when our late sage should have been 109, the next speaker initiated what's called our conversations. And this is because she's the executive director of Obafemi Awolowo Foundation. Before I invite her to share good practice, we're looking for solution. Many will say where we've got to today seems to have been long coming. And after my next speaker, I'll be re-inviting His Grace the Archbishop to also share with us lessons from the Kaduna crisis. Today is about understanding what conflict is and the role in humanity, also solution-driven. So permit me to please invite Her Excellency, Ambassador Dr. Tokunbo Awolowo Dosumu, to please share her thoughts with us, with particular emphasis on initiatives tested and proven, focused enough to have assisted us to have averted the situation we found ourselves in Nigeria. Over to you, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Erelu. I keep thanking you every time for your initiative and for all that you're doing, not only for the Yoruba nation, now for the extended Nigerian family. Konisui, Konirei, apologies to the Archbishop. I hope you understand what I just said. She will never be tired. I'm very pleased to reconnect with the Archbishop. I met him in 2013, I believe, in Epara, when he was the guest at the Remo Diocese Synod. And for that reason, I have taken the liberty to invite his friend, Most Reverend Olushina Fakwe. He's on the platform right now, and he's listening to us. And I'm very pleased to be on the same panel with you and also with Professor Akiyemi. You never disappoint, sir. I mean, I always learn from you. Every time you open your mouth, I learned something. So, and of course, to my brother, Senator Kaka, I'll tell you that I invited him to the adult harvest at our Savior's Church in Ekene, I think 2 years ago, or maybe last year. And he came. I invited some other Christians that did not bother to turn up. Not only did he come, he was there throughout the service, and he made a very handsome donation, despite the fact that he is Muslim. So another example of the religious tolerance that we have all imbibed in Yoruba land. So to your question, I will refer to the Archbishop's presentation. He has given us 15 causes of conflict, which include marginalization, nepotism, resource control, etc. And conflict is part and parcel of human nature. We've heard that today, and there is no doubt about that. And from day one, conflict has been part of our nature. The problem comes with the way conflict is managed or not managed. There are several options when there's a conflict, several options that we all know about. You could avoid it, and that doesn't solve anything. The conflict remains. You could accommodate it. Again, that doesn't solve anything. Conflict escalates because some parties to the conflict believe that they are not being listened to, they're not being heard, even in the family setting, even in a nuclear family. If there's a child or even a mother or a father that has a problem and talks about it and nobody listens, tensions escalate, and that is the problem. That's what causes conflict. So you can either avoid or accommodate. Accommodation doesn't solve the problem. It just means that somebody continues to win, the other person continues to lose. Now you get into serious problem when one or both parties or several parties decide to compete in the solution to the problem. In other words, they turn it into a zero-sum game and want to win as if you are playing football or some kind of game, and one person wins it all and the other person loses it all. That is when you get into serious problem. And coming down to our nation, I think a lot of the issues that the Archbishop enumerated and listed here are issues that people have been screaming about for decades. And by now, some people feel that nobody is listening, and maybe that explains what is happening now. I don't know. But the best way forward in any conflict is collaboration and compromise. And I will leave my seniors to elaborate on those two concepts and those two options. But you can't collaborate when people aren't listening. You can't compromise if you don't come around the table to talk to, first of all, acknowledge that there's a problem. Acknowledge there's a problem, and then together find a solution or several solutions. We've heard about how leaders in the US and the USSR then got out of the sticky situation or a tragedy that could have befallen the whole world, because they decided to step back and later find some way of collaboration and compromise. So I don't want to say too much. I'm supposed to set the stage for what the solutions can be. And I'm hoping that the elaboration can come from the Archbishop and the Professor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Besides, it's time to bring back His Grace, the Archbishop, Josiah Idowu Ferron. Over to you now. Solution time. Kaduna crisis. Did you have problem people listening before it became what it was? Please share your thoughts with us. It's over to you again now, and we'll be delighted to know if now things have improved compared to 1999.
Oh yes. As Senator Kaka would say, Alhamdulillah, praise be to God. And as Bishop Fakwe and the others would say, praise the Lord. And we are saying the same thing, it's just the language. So let us stop killing ourselves. Let us stop saying things that are not right. We want to thank God with the situation in Kaduna. When late Yakowa became governor, he set up a committee of 70 wise women and men. And it was that committee that actually proposed the setting up of a peace commission for the state, where opportunities will be given to the people to air, their feelings, to demand, to see how some of the things that have been creating problems for us in Kaduna. In the Hausa will say, "Abunda kechi tuwa korea." You have your food on your plate, and something is eating it before you even feed on it. That's what the Hausa person says. Well, when the present administration came in, El-Rufai studied the previous commissions that were set up, and he decided to set up this State Peace Commission. I chair it in an honorary capacity. I don't get paid for it. And we have 3 paid commissioners, one from from Zone 3, one from Zone 1, and the other one from Zone 2, to represent the 3 senatorial zones we have in Kaduna. And we have local government peace committees that we have set up. And the commissioners sort of go around, and I will say, in spite of what the press tell you, Kaduna State, particularly the southern part of Kaduna, is not the same as it was. What we are wrestling with today is purely banditry. And banditry is not restricted to Zone 3, which is, Zone 3 is Southern Kaduna. I prefer using zones. Zone 3 is Southern Kaduna. The killings in Zone 2, which is Birnengwari area, human life is human life. But in terms of numbers, when we roll out the number of people killed in Zone 2, particularly Birnengwari area, you will shudder. However, what is being done, apart from meeting the people and encouraging them to actually initiate their own ways and means of relating together, we are also encouraging them to begin to accept their neighbors. One of the biggest problems we have in Kaduna State, particularly in Zone 3, is deep-rooted hatred. Hatred between the so-called settlers and the so-called indigenes. Senator Kaka did mention land. Land is a major source of the crisis we face in Zone 3, Southern Kaduna. No matter what it is, even if you have your certificate of occupancy, the culture, the tradition will tell you you cannot own this land. It belongs to our ancestors. It's a problem. It is a problem. Number two, religion. I want to end on this. Religion is a facade. Yes, we are, I was going to say criminally. In fact, we say that we are criminally religious in Nigeria. Everybody professes to be either a Muslim or a Christian. Very few people these days profess to be traditional worshippers. Everything is seen through the prism of religion. You have a herdsman whose cows stray into a farmer's farm. Because the herder is Fulani, who doesn't even own the cows themselves, and the farmer is one of the Southern Kaduna indigenes. Oh, it's a Christian. Oh, it's a Muslim. So what is criminal is being interpreted as a religious situation. So one of the biggest problems we face in the northern states in particular, let me open it up, is the question of using religion to get at people, using religion to get what you think belongs to you, and using religion to cover up something that is nothing but criminal. We use religion to cover these things up. And that was why, towards the end of my first presentation, I did say, if 2023, as we move toward 2023, Nigerians, as we say, the balance is shine your eyes. If Archbishop Fakwe comes up and says, I am an Anglican archbishop, I want to contest as senator, he knows he can't even do it in the Anglican setup. He will have to resign as bishop. He will have to resign as the Bishop of Remo and the Archbishop of Lagos Internal Province before he can contest, and not as an Anglican bishop. That is one of the biggest problems we are facing today. People use the toga of Right Reverend, Pastor, whatever titles we use. If you have a congregation, I believe one of the best ways to reduce the negative use of religion is to legislate in that country and say, you cannot seek for a political office as a reverend or as an imam or as a sheikh or as whatever titles you give to Babalawo people. You cannot. It is our biggest problem in Nigeria, and I want to use this forum to send this message to Nigerians. If you want to be a bishop, stay. If you want to be a pastor, work with your people, but don't come and seek for a political position. My simple reason is this: you cannot but be biased. You will be biased. And I will definitely not vote for you if you say you're a pastor. The first thing I will ask is, which denomination? If you're a Baptist, I will not vote for you. Because if once you get there, you will definitely, by design or by accident, favor the Baptist. That's the problem. So let me just stop here to give you some of the ways we have tried to reduce. You cannot wipe off fighting because crises are there. And as Dr. Dosumu said, it is management. And I want to say here that in spite of what you read in the papers, in spite of what people say against Governor El-Rufai, Kaduna State is better today than what we were when you came.
Thank you, Archbishop, but I won't let you go. The reason is this. Please remind us of what was happening, because 1999 is a long time ago, What was the problem then? And can I also ask you one important question? You mentioned herdsmen. Did you have the same, that problem at that point in time? Over to you, Archbishop. I think you haven't unmuted yourself. Thank you. Are we there?
Yeah, the problem between farmers and herdsmen and women has always been in the entire northern states. And during the colonial time, we had cattle routes. And we also had grazing reserved areas. I have had the opportunity of serving on at least 9 of the commissions set up in Kaduna State, including one national one, the presidential one after the 2011 election. There are problems with the grazing reserve areas. And the major problem is that most of these acquired lands have not been compensated for, and they have not been gazetted. I'm speaking with facts because we discovered this. So because the lands were not compensated for, the people, the settlers, that the owners of the land are saying, this land, even though government has conscripted it, we have not been given compensation. And it has not been gazetted. So we've always had that. But from then, we've always had traditional rulers. And we had ways and means of sanctioning any herdsman whose animals infiltrate or stray into a farmer's land. It's always been there. But modern governance stopped all that, took away these powers from our traditional rulers. So today we are asking, shall we have something like that? And in Kaduna State, something like that is now being done. So when you came, we had that problem. But the major problem when you came had to do with religion, Sharia or no Sharia. That was the major difficulty then. But today, we are living with it as a result of lita'arafu, understanding. Christians know that you cannot you can't have Sharia imposed on you. And in Kaduna State, even as a Muslim, if you choose not to be judged under Sharia, you go and swear to an affidavit. It is your decision. And as a Christian, if I choose to have my case under Sharia, I will go and swear an affidavit that it is my personal choice. So when any state or any ruler promotes the culture of understanding, we can actually find solutions to very difficult problems. So Kaduna is making a headway because of commitment on the side of the governor and cooperation and obedience, not fully on the side of those of us who are being governed. But the biggest problem today is banditry. and they are in their hundreds with sophisticated weapons. And people are asking, why are they not arrested? Why is this not happening? Well, I want to say here that what is going on with these bandits is like a war, and it is on daily basis. We are hoping that with jobs being created, with development, because we have roads being built, young people are being engaged and they are being employed, education is being given a lion's share of the budget, we are hoping. But over and above all, Nigerians and those of us from Kaduna State, we must learn to live with our differences, because that is a deliberate plan by God so that we can live together as one human race.
Thank you very much, Archbishop. I'm going to go straight on to Professor Akiyemi. Now, focusing specifically on solution for Nigeria, and bearing in mind what we've seen, I believe since the 12th of October. Over to you.
Thank you, Erelu. And let me join you in extending my commiseration to my sister over the loss of another sister, both hers and mine. And just to tell her that we share in her grief and we share in your pain. I appreciated your call to me when I lost my brother. And I remember the very day of the funeral, you calling me that unfortunately you were stuck somewhere. You had an intention to attend the service. I didn't know that so soon I'll be able then to come back to you to say I share your pain, but I do understand and I share your pain. I'm glad that the question that Erelu has raised. Let me just say one or two things and leave them with His Grace, the Archbishop, about Kaduna, because I have a little bit of experience, obviously not as vast as yours, on this Kaduna issue, in the sense that General Lekwat and I were colleagues serving in the same regime when he was arrested and sentenced to death for being part of the southern Kaduna issue. Now the present governor has established a Hizbah, which is an Islamic Muslim police force. He denied it, but now there are videos going around showing them in their training camps and he himself addressing them. Now we know the way the Hizbah has operated in Kano. If they come and see beer being sold in your shop, they don't even ask whether you're a Muslim or you're a Christian. They destroy all the beer in your shop. to which somebody has an investment. And if you're not careful, they even get you arrested. Now, is the Hizbah in Kaduna being trained to make a distinction between Christian shops and Muslim shops? Theoretically, yes. You could make a distinction between being guarded by the Islamic law, or if you don't want to, but in actual practice. I will have a bit more to say about this when I answer Irelu's question, because, and my sister, the ambassador, knows this, one of the issues we were confronted with in the national conference in terms of split communities. How do you deal with split religious identities? The problem that, that creates. A new emirate has been created in southern Kaduna by this present governor. Now, we didn't exist before. Now, what would then do to the traditional authority originally in that area? As much as in my village, I know the area that come from Elisha actually come from Ifewara, which is a village under Elisha. We have mosques there, and we have churches there. The oldest Christian church in Ifewara was brought by my grandfather. But we cannot have an emir there just because we now have Muslims in Ifewara. Now, let me just tell you a little story. I will hurry up about that. My grandfather told me that in one year in the ancient days, the king of the next village to us sent a message to our Oba of Ifewara that he was having a celebration and he wanted the Oba of Ifewara to please send a delegation to come and rejoice with them. And our Oba said, that's fine, but what are you celebrating? Oh, he said, one of us had just returned from Mecca. So we have an allergy now, and we are going to celebrate his return. So, of course, we sent, our Abba sent a delegation there, they rejoiced, came back. Then the Abba of Ifewara summoned all the chiefs and eminent people in Ifewara. I said, they have an allergy there. We don't have an allergy in Ifewara. Therefore, he was levying some amount of money on every household in Ifewara, so we can send somebody to Mecca so that the following year we also will have an allergy and we will celebrate it. That was the way things were done at that time. Of course, it shouldn't be done like that now. But I wish the Archbishop will tell us the impact of having a new emirate created in southern Kaduna. Now, directly to your question, how are we going to move forward in Nigeria? We had a national conference in 2014. Ambassador Dr. Dosumu was one of our delegates. I was the deputy chairman of that conference. And we debated conflicts in Nigeria and we proposed solutions. We were so detailed that we even employed SANs to help us prepare draft legislation that we need to that we needed to address the issues that had arisen. Well, that report is still there. Believe me, I mean, if it took us 5 months or so to write that report, you can imagine how long it would take me to tell you what is in that report. But let me just say, that report is still relevant today as when we wrote it in 2014. There is another report which is just as relevant, just as important, and just as critical to Nigerian survival, which people seldom talk about. And that is the Uwais Committee report on electoral reform. I had the privilege of serving on that committee. And President Yar'Adua, when we submitted the report to him, he committed himself to implementing that report. I even remember joking with him, "Sir, you haven't read this report and you are committing yourself to implementing that report. Supposing we've put in that report that you should divorce your wife." He said, "I will still implement your report." Well, we just laughed over it. Now, the honorable man that President Yar'Adua was, he took that report to cabinet and he told them point blank in cabinet, "I have accepted this report." This report included how you will reform the police, because it's critical to having a free and fair election. How you will reform it. It dealt with how to guarantee the Beijing report on gender participation in our system. And we recommended, what do you call it now? Proportional representation that will guarantee fixed seats for women, whether party posts, electoral posts, and in cabinet. We went through all of this. So President Yar'Adua told his cabinet, "I am accepting this report." And then he asked each member of the cabinet to express their views. Of course, to those of us who must have been in government, you know, once your president says, "I've accepted this," God help you if you then raise up your hand to say, "I disagree." So that day, all the cabinet members said, "I agree, I agree, I agree." That night, a delegation of the PDP, led by Anene, Chief Tony Anene, then went to the president and said, "You can't do this. This is how we win elections. You just gave up all the loopholes that we politicians need, and you can't do this." Somebody who was present at that meeting told me that already Yar'Adua was very ill. He didn't have the energy to fight back. So he just said, "Well, okay, tomorrow I will represent it to the cabinet," which he did, except this time he said it's without commitment from him, and every single member of his cabinet said they opposed that Uwais report. Till today, that report has not resurrected. So that's another document you should look for. I know that piecemeal, the National Assembly has been amending the Constitution or coming up with legislation, the latest being actually the Police Act, which the president himself signed guaranteeing a tenure of office for the Inspector General of Police. And what we then said was to remove an Inspector General of Police, it must be by 2/3 of the vote of the Senate, and inclusive in that 2/3 must be 1/3 of the votes of the opposition senators. And if you could get that, oh, well, then the IG must be a very bad person. But if you cannot get the votes of the opposition, then you cannot touch the Inspector General of Police, because that's what tended to happen. You fire an Inspector General of Police that is not doing your bidding. So those two documents, let them look for it, read through, and distill from them what you need to move Nigeria forward. It is there. You don't need to set up a new commission. It is there. You could set up a new body that will help you distill, so that things that you don't need, you can abandon. That's it.
Thank you very much indeed. I don't know if I've still got Senator Kaka with me. We lost him. But I want us to stay focused, because far too often programs like this, they are just seen as theoretical. I would like, and I remember His Grace the Archbishop sending me a note to say he's been praying for me. And I think, without doubt, I know Yeye prays for me a lot. And every morning from Prof, I get prayers. And when I use the word prayer, I want to use it to go back to the word listening. English is not my first language, but when you talk about listening, I think it means take notice and act. Take notice and act. How do we get the two? Take notice, action. Notice, action. Now, I don't know if Senator Kaka is still there. Let me see if I can, if the studio can find him. But I think he maybe.
But the Archbishop is indicating he wants to speak.
Thank you. Fine. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Over to you, Archbishop Ferron.
Thank you. I just wanted to respond to two things that Prof alluded to. I am not here to defend Governor El-Rufai, but two things you mentioned. Prof, there is no Hisbah like you have in Kano, in Kaduna State. In Kano, Hisbah is official. It is gazetted. They are all paid by the government. In Kaduna State, what you have is the individual masjid or group having their own young people who also wear uniforms to control when they have prayers, when they have big rallies, to make sure that traffic flows and people behave. We do not have an official Hisbah group in Kaduna State. Number two, emirate system. Prof, these following local government areas have their houses, the ruling houses. Kagaruko, Lere, Kajuru, and Kauru. These four local government areas have ruling houses, and they are all Muslims. They rejected the title chief because, you see, they're in Zone 3 in Kaduna South or Southern Kaduna. They said, look, we do not want to be ranked with the traditional rulers here. We are Muslims. So they actually requested to be addressed as emirs, as the emir of Birnangwari, emir of Zawzaw, and all the other areas we have in Zone 1. Therefore, I agree with you, every ruler should be a good listener and should listen to his people. But what all I know is that officially these ruling houses are all Muslims and they requested for equal treatment as the Emir of Zauzau and the Emir of Burnangwari. That's just the factual explanation I thought I should give. Whether it is a right decision or wrong decision, Allahu Alam, God knows best.
Thank you very much indeed, Your Grace. I'm going to go back to Senator Kaka, and I want him to be focused on two words, notice and action. Take notice and act. I want to restrict you to Ijebu or Ogun State because you were a former deputy governor. I want you to cast your mind back to when you were a deputy governor or senator for the same area. Any evidence of senators taking notice of what the people want and acting? I want you to also maybe move forward and respond to what should senators as well as the governor at this point be doing to demonstrate that they are taking notice and acting. Over to you, Senator Kaka.
Well, though the governor and the senators, they derive their power by the mandate given to them by the same electorates. But notwithstanding that, they are expected to serve the common interest of the common electorates. So ordinarily, both the governors and the senator were supposed to work hand in hand. For the common good. The source of conflict as listed by our Bishop over imposes which on the senator, wanting the senator to come and take permission before he can act within his own senatorial district when he is not taking advice from him. So the two sides must see themselves as partners in progress and then be able to deliver the expected goods. Unfortunately, like what is bedeviling all of us nationally, you discover that one particular word is missing in all of us, and that word is trust. There's mistrust everywhere. The governor don't want to trust the senator because he's fearful that maybe the senator is having the ambition of coming to take over his seat at the next election. The senator is not also trusting the governor, his followers, to take over. It's extended nationally to the extent that what is being done in terms of its sincerity of purpose, the honesty of purpose is absent. So even all the documents, including the confab of 2014 and all the previous ones, show you what is just to know the difference between them, to take advantage of others. All those things done, they will, which is rather unfortunate. So we need further education of all these people.
Looks as if we may. Is Senator Kaka still with us? Senator, you need to unmute yourself or be unmuted. Studio, can we hear?
Is the network problem? I'm still very much with you.
Thank you.
So what I'm saying is that there's mistrust everywhere. And we don't have to assume that because some people are leaders, then they are well educated. There's a difference between being literate and being educated. By the time you are a leader and you are now inciting your followers against other people, either on religious ground, on ethnicity, on whatever you want to think of, it is unbecoming. It shows lack of education. And once we are able to get it done, then people, the followers, will have confidence that, yes, this is an honest man. I can rely on him. Then the leader can also be able to say, yes, let's build trust so that these people can have confidence in us. But all those are absent. The people, that's why people are disenchanted. And that's why it is difficult to resolve the perceived and real conflicts that are existing amongst us. So that of politics is totally different. And even suspicion to the extent of the governor looking backward, thinking that the deputy governor is trying to undermine him and wants to take his position. It shouldn't be. Do the bit, the assignment given to you to the best of your ability, and leave the judgment to God. So God be with us.
Senator Kaka, I need to put a question to you. And again, it's because I need to look out for evidence of senators, the government taking notice and acting. I think for at least a year, complaints have been ongoing about the salaries of senators. I want to ask you this question. Who really has the right to take action, to review the salary if it's in order, and to respond to the populists who are complaining? I have to say, having served in government myself, my concern is I can't see how in Britain the public will be complaining viciously for quite some time about all these huge salaries that senators are being given. And I can't see even on the floor of the Senate, the question being asked and something be done. So let me put the question to you. If you take that as an example, under normal circumstances, if senators and the government would take notice and act, what would they do?
Okay, thank you very much. I think the electorates are right. And for the National Assembly members, they just have to respond. The response should be in form of explaining, carrying the people along what is missing. Because many people assume what is being given them, they have under the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission, they have fixed remuneration. Just like all others in the executive, they have it. It's gazetted. Now, beyond that one, they now have what they call constituency project, which is not to be touched by any National Assembly members. Whoever is touching it or having direct contact with the money is committing an offense, which could result into jail. Because it is executive that was supposed to do the thing. Their own is to hide the respective area, the respective agency out of the MDAs was supposed to make sure that the affected contractor execute accordingly. Then there's what they call the money they are supposed to use to facilitate their work. So if the money is given,
I think you need to unmute yourself again. So I think you need to unmute yourself.
Hello now.
Yeah, we're back. Yes,
yeah,
thank you.
The network went off. The network went off.
Yes, yes, I understand.
So there is money expected. They voted money for everybody that they were supposed to use it to facilitate. You have a bill, if from outside the country, you hire and you get it done. So why some people are not spending the money on what is expected? That is what they need to explain to the public. And why that humongous amount should be allotted for such purpose also, they will need to carry the people along. Otherwise, they may have to jettison it. The problem which they refuse to tell people is that each time we have coup in Nigeria, the first government arm that suffer the real thing is the legislature. So the first thing is to suspend the constitution, and once that one is done, they cripple the process of development of legislative arm, while the executive remains and the judiciary remains. So by the time you now come back to democracy, then you will need to start developing from the bottom. And hence, they believe that, okay, the library not developed, there's need to have consultancy, whether legal or accounting or whatever. But many people are not spending the money for what it was meant for. And that's why people are shouting. So, to me, if they can justify it and people accept it, I see.
Are you saying that they should justify what is perceived as huge salary? That's what the people are saying. Huge salary. That's what they're saying.
Salary. I'm correct. Yes. Excuse me. Please. Erroneous belief. That is erroneous belief. Yes. Some people believe that once they talk about constituency projects, the constituency project, I never interacted with any contractor. I did not even know the contractor given, because in some terms, the contract must have exchanged. Somebody in Bono might get the paper through the civil servants, bought it at certain percentage, then sell it to somebody from Igbo land before they get to my own constituency to come and be managing whatever is left. I know those private projects I did. I know that if they do it by government, probably I will be constructing, achieving double, if not triple, of what the government own will have been able to achieve. And when you talk of something, I sponsor bills that became law with the presidential assent. I have others at various stages, and I know the meager amount I spent out of the money voted for it. And I did it with honesty of purpose, did it to the best of my own ability, and even saved money to be able to bring something back to my constituency to augment whatever is available to them. So it depends on the conscience of each and every one of us, and we need to educate ourselves. And if we are convinced that it is becoming too much, yes, we used to have part-time legislation. We can as well go back there, and if need be, instead of having by camera, let's have unicamera. Anything we can do to save money, to protect the future of generation coming behind.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes. Let me say, I want to thank you because I've got you as, can I say, I'm going to be spending a lot more time on this because I've got 2 existing senators due to come onto this program. I will bring you back on. I just wanted to show to my viewers and listeners that there is a process, there's a procedure that's supposed to be adopted to show that senators and members of the government, they are taking notice and acting, which is called listening. Let me put the next question to you. The question is this, it's all coming here.
Okay.
For, I think, since 2015, they've been talking about Oodua Republic, cessation, restructuring, this. Again, I'm not asking you to say you are for or against. May I ask you, why has it taken so long for some kind of a demonstration of the responsibility expected of government, which is to listen and act? Now, why has it taken so long for an answer to come to all these agitations about Oodua Republic, Ariwa Republic, Igbo Republic? Why has it taken so long?
Well, it's a very dicey question, but we all know that once we have a constitution that is in existence and is in operation, you have to test that constitution to a limit. We have a constitution in America that had spent more than 200 years, probably amendments maybe about 3 or 4 times. But in Nigeria, every year we have Constitutional Review Committee. We have national convenes. We must have had close to 4 or 5 now. And yet we are not making use of any. Then we have provision of the constitutions that will be amended. And when it gets to getting 2/3 of the state, the lords in the states, the governors, will thwart it. Even the autonomy for the State House of Assembly, we voted for it. It was duly passed in the National Assembly. By the time it got to the states, you will be disappointed that instead of getting 24 states, we had only 22. Without the extra 2, there's no way it can be passed. And once it's not passed, you start afresh at the next legislative year. At the next legislative session. So it is difficult, very, very difficult to have a change of the constitution. So if there are consensus of opinion that, okay, anybody wants any republic or whatever, then let's carry on the National Assembly and then push it through the legal means. It's not just by wishful thinking. They will have to articulate it, get all others involved, and then we do part in our own way. So we don't need to go to war. The war will have its own scar. It will deprive a lot of people, but we can do things in a sanely manner. And in any event, what are we all fighting for? The bottom line is greed for money, greed for resources that was put wherever it is by the Almighty God. The Niger Delta, in the late 50s, they just have drops of oil coming up. But by 70, 80, it has become something else. And everybody wants to die because of the oil. They didn't put it there.
Senator Kaka, permit me to interrupt. Because, again, based on questions I'm getting, I'm not sure it's about oil that people are saying we want to go on our own. The Biafrans, hold on, the Biafrans they've been making noise.
It is the sharing of the resources.
Please wait for me to finish.
The resources.
Please, let me finish.
By the time they allow each zone to control their resources, you will discover that most of these crises will vanish. The conflict will disappear. Okay. I work. I make the money. If there's anything to be remitted to the national.
Let me put the question again to you. The question is, why is it taking so long for answer to come? People have been asking for restructuring, cessation, and the next presidential speech you are going to get is unity of Nigeria is not negotiable. Please, the question remains, if the electors are asking for something, what is constitutionally supposed to be the responsibility of a government that is there to represent the people who are saying this is what we want? I have noted that Ambassador Awolowo Dosumu would want to come in, but maybe I better bring her in whilst you take a deep breath. I hope I haven't put you too much on that fire. But let me go to Ambassador.
No.
You want to come in? Okay. Please,
just
please.
a little.
Please.
What is happening is all those people you are saying are in elective positions, many of them were sponsored. On getting to the offices, there is a remote control. They are all already thinking of the next election, and the governors were already taking over what goes on. They take the tune. And that's why year in, year out, you find people showing the same agenda and not being able to accomplish it. So in the case of what we're asking for, request for anything is legitimate. Whether it is creation of states, creation of zone, or even independence of any particular nation. But you must be able to carry all others along. Difficulty you are talking about is inability to build consensus among all the different parts that makes the whole. I hope I'm clear.
You're very kind. Let me stop you. Let me say thank you very much. Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. Let me go straight on to Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Awolowo Dosumu. On this, the subject is, why are we not getting evidence that the government, the elected politicians are not taking notice of what people are saying and responding? Either yes or no. Nothing is coming. Over to you.
Well, thank you very much. I think your conversation with Senator Kaka and everything he has said brings into bold relief the problem that had been highlighted before, that a lot of what we're talking about, conflict resolution and all the issues that you've talked about, depend on the kind of leadership that we have. And I think he has made it really clear that there are problems with the elected leadership. For example, why hasn't anything been done about restructuring and changing the constitution, despite the fact that it was on the manifesto of the party that won elections in 2015? What are the processes by which electors, the electorate, can make their feelings or their wishes or their demands known to their representatives? Do they have constituency offices? And are those offices open for constituents to come and talk? And are there processes by which to take these things forward? And when we talk about constituency projects, I find it very difficult to come to terms with those. What are the ministries doing? Ministry of Works, Ministry of Education, Ministry of whatever the constituency project is. Why does it have to be domiciled in the office of the legislator? I can't understand that. And I think at the bottom of all of this is the fact that perhaps we need many more selfless and visionary leaders than we have currently. Perhaps that is where the problem is. How we get that is another question. That's probably a topic for another day. But I do think that the political leadership has a lot to answer for in all the questions that you have asked. But I had asked to intervene earlier, simply because, the topic for today is conflict and humanity. And we had talked about the fact that a lot of issues had been flagged up and nobody appeared to be listening. And Nigeria, as constituted today, is a fact. It is a fact. I mean, Nigeria is a reality. And in my view, Nigeria is made up of several nationalities. And what we're supposed to make of it is a beautiful, colorful, vibrant tapestry. But over the years, attempts have been made to convert everybody, to convince everybody to give up their various colors so that we all come back to a uniform gray conformity, which is neither beautiful nor useful to anybody. And I think one of the issues there, and that is why we have this irritation between ourselves, among ourselves. There's a lot of irritation. It started as irritation. Now it's really becoming something nasty. And we need to address the situation. One of the situations is the issue of grazing routes. I think the Archbishop mentioned grazing routes, which may have worked in the past, but today, we're in a modern age and people are asking, why do we still have to have grazing routes controlled by the government? Cattle rearing is a private initiative, it's a business. And what about ranches? Why can't we have ranches? Why do we have to? Because everything has become an issue for Nigerians, and everything becomes an issue of sovereignty and self and identity. And I think we need to de-escalate that. We need to de-emphasize issues that will cause further irritation and further mistrust. As the senator has mentioned, there's very little trust among one another. And I think these are issues that need to be discussed. And, the issue of people asking to become emirs. Now, in Yoruba land, we have Obas, sometimes traditional worshippers, sometimes Christians, sometimes Muslims, but they would never ask to be addressed as emirs or I don't know what Christians would call themselves. Am I still with you? Are you still? Yes. Am I? Yeah. So I think we need to de-emphasize issues that could cause further conflict. We are at the point in Nigeria now where I think we need, as you said, to listen to one another. And in order to listen to one another, we need to come closer together so that we don't have to shout at one another anymore. We need to collaborate and we need to talk and to find a compromise and a way forward that can be comfortable. I mean, we're not all going to get everything we want. We're going to have to give up something or the other in order to make it work. But as it is, it's not the ideal situation. And that's really what I wanted to say at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's go straight on to, I'm nearing the end of the program. I want to ask the question, what needs to change? From my perspective, listening needs to be more of take notice and take action. Take notice, take action. No point. I find it intolerable that even to get hold of the telephone number of these senators and members of the House of Reps in Abuja is like trying to get blood out of stone. And they are forever hiding. You have to be a VIP to be able to make contact with them. We don't have that in England. And that needs to change. I don't know why all the telephone numbers of these senators and members of the House of Reps are not put out into the public domain regularly. Maybe they are, I don't know. Let me go straight to the youngest person in the Zoom area, and that is Torera. Torera, may I invite you to tell me what needs to change? Specifically, what needs to change? It's interesting enough, Torera was born in England, and she lived in England, and she decided to venture to live in Nigeria. She just decided she wanted to go and live in Nigeria. Now she's in Nigeria. So, Torera, please focus on what needs to change. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ma. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I think, that is actually the million-dollar question. What actually needs to be changed? There's a lot that needs to be changed. Since our independence until now, many things have remained the same, and a lot of those things have not been working or do not work. There has been protests throughout the country for over a few weeks now, and as much as everybody has been screaming "End SARS," the problem is actually bigger than SARS. SARS is actually a byproduct of a inherently corrupt system that we're dealing with at the moment. So we actually need to go to the root of the problem, which would need reform. How that reform is going to take place is really the question, and that's really what we need to work on together as a community. Whether we're going to use some of the old techniques that worked in the past, or whether we're going to change it and move forward and just completely scrap the system and start again. It's a difficult task. It's not an easy task. It's not something that can happen overnight. The same way it took us 60 years to get to where we are now, it's going to take us time to reform. And really, that's really the brunt of it. That's really what's needed at the moment. I think there is a big need for us to sort of bridge that gap, like you mentioned, Matt. There's a huge gap between the people that are running the country and the actual people, and there needs to be some inclusivity. Right now, as I look around, especially as we look in politics, inclusivity is probably at 0 at the moment. All you have to do if you're in Nigeria is switch on the TV, and if you watch the news, you'll see that most of the people in government in high positions, they're from one particular tribe. I don't need to mention the tribe. We don't need to get tribalistic about it, but if you're actually observing, just looking in, you can see that inclusivity is minimal for young people, for our tribes. That is very much needed if we're going to be able to move forward as a community. That's really what I see at the moment.
I need to put a question to you, Torera. In your opinion, are the young people behaving badly on social media? They've been insulting adults. They've been insulting Obas. Now, may I ask you, the conduct of young people, because they are annoyed, because they are angry, the conduct, is that an area that requires change? Or is it, I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah,
is it justifiable? The behavior we've seen lately.
The behavior we've seen you know, and I'm not condoning the behavior that we're seeing. I don't condone violence. I don't condone looting. I don't condone any of the bad behavior that we've seen. But it's a byproduct of the bigger problem, which is young people are frustrated. And I don't even think it's just young people. I think people in general are frustrated. Globally, you're seeing protests with young people. Now, I think my biggest issue, because my background is media, okay? And for me, the biggest issue, what I'm seeing now is a lot of misinformation. And, you know, being a digital native can be fortunate and unfortunate. I'm kind of lucky. I fall on the cusp. I'm in the 1980s. So I've been able to experience the era where we didn't grow up with the internet, and I've been able to experience the era with the internet. And what I would say is there is so much misinformation flying about, which I think is also detrimental to people's lives and the way in which they behave. So one of the things that I've been seeing, just giving you an example, is if they protest for 30 days, then the UN will intervene. Well, this is misinformation, because if you actually go to the UN site, they make it very clear in their charter that they don't get involved in domestic issues. But things like that might prompt people, I believe, prompted people to stay out on the streets longer than they should have. And then there's also the issue of, you know, the protesters being faceless. This is a big problem because there's no appointed leaders. There's nobody to be able to talk to directly. So I think a lot of people, especially young people, are getting involved, and they're not really understanding the magnitude of their actions, the repercussions of their actions. And I feel like there needs to be some education in that area for young people, especially if they want to go out and protest. Nobody's saying don't go out and protest. It's your constitutional right. But there is a way in which you can do it in order to, you know, for it to be successful. I don't agree with things like hackers hacking into officials' accounts and giving out their information, giving out their address, giving out their numbers. I don't agree with things like that. But this is the era that we live in. We're in the digital era. And I think for a lot of people, especially these young people who are involved in that activity, for them, that's the only way that they feel their voice is going to be heard.
Thank you. Let me bring in a colleague of mine. Well, yes, I am delighted to have another UK-based politician with me, Councillor Folashade T, focusing on what needs to change. Over to you. Can we find Folashade T?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you very much, and as usual, a due respect to all the great leaders on the platform. I have listened right from Archbishop, if I get that right, and also a due respect to Professor Akiyemi, God, I'm respectful as well. Deputy Governor, I happen to be the state auditor for Alliance for Democracy in Ogun State. So I have so much regard and effort he has put in a lot of things, you know, while he was a senator. And I can confirm that definitely with regards to constituency, whatever that was given to them, up till today, if you go to my local government in Remo North, you still have what Alhaji Kaka did with constituency fund. So let me use this opportunity to mark him and say he's one of the people that has really made us proud, and I'm really proud of him as a former deputy governor and also a senator. What needs to change? I have said this, there's a lot to change, ma. If I have to look at my political background in Nigeria and what is happening here, there's a huge difference of what needs to change. And from the beginning is in terms of, let me go back to the basis, and when you are talking about registration of membership. Here in UK, you are quite aware, Relu, everyone is equal. We pay membership. If you're a Labour or Conservative member, you pay depending on your salary, depending on your capability. Even right from a student, everyone has a say. And also, where you do not have, not everyone might even be interested in joining a party. There are other platforms that people use to make sure their voices are heard. I think that is one key thing that needs to be changed. Money should be taken out of politics. With due respect, I think if everyone has a say, where everyone is being treated with equal, and like the former speaker said, inclusivity. In Labour Party or Conservative Party, it's not about how rich I am. It's just about my involvement when I came to this country. That is why I have been able to achieve everything I have achieved. I did not have a godfather. I did not go to anyone, but because I was involved, based on the passion I've always had, and based on what I have been doing from back home. And honestly, from back home, I wasn't born with a silver spoon. My father was not a rich man. He actually died. He was a driver in Lagos State. But I was given the opportunity as a young person for those who saw certain characteristics and my passion in me. I would want to see that being given to every young, old Nigerian, irrespective of who you are, either you are young or old. I think it boils down to listening. I think it boils down to looking at the categories of people that we elect into position. I think it boils down to the party as a whole taking great steps to reform all these changes. If we cannot reform from the local, sincerely we'll have a difficulty in talking about even going to Senate or House of Rep. Let's start from the party. Let's have an equal representation where everyone has a say. If you are Iya Elewedu, like I used to attend my ward forum then, either you are Iya Elewedu or Iya Eleko, or maybe then I was a graduate working in the bank. We all sit together and have that discussion. That is one of the things I want to see with regards to change. There's so many things. That key aspect, I think is very important. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, and a due respect to all the leaders on this great platform. I respect you all. Thank you so much, ma.
Thank you very much. You brought tears to my eyes. That's somebody I'm very proud of. The only thing is she needs to join the Conservative Party and she won't come. Anyway, very happy. Welcome. Now, let me say it's very important to leave this platform today, understanding that in England, where both the last speaker, Councillor Folashade Eti, and myself have had privilege of being involved in party political organizations. Yes, it's been fairness all the way. My first year, I only paid 50p for 1 year. 50p is about 200 and 300 naira for a year. That was what I paid for my first year, joining the Conservative Party in England. Now, and it's very easy. It was very easy to do so. And I was very surprised that the member of parliament for my area, after I sent in my 50p, came to visit me, to welcome me. You see, the member of parliament. How many times do the senators go and, or members of the House of Assembly go and welcome new members? It's very important for us to know that conflict is normal. Conflict is human, it's unavoidable. I believe it has advantages and it has disadvantages. I think a lot of the advantages, whether one wants to agree or not, is the fact that we're able to begin to, shall I say, represent the voices of those who have been screaming at the top of their voice, and no one seemed to have been listening, or it's been kind of arrogantly saying, let them continue to shout, Jare. Let them continue to shout. Honestly, I can't believe what I see of Nigeria in number. I have to say, I had a much cherished privilege of being on ground when His Excellency Otumba Adinganalil was a governor. And I can safely exclude him because I witnessed the reality. His telephone number was freely available. He was always on text, and you could send messages to him. Right from, I was speaking at Olabisi Onabanjo University. I remember asking this question. So let's say it's a new beginning. It's a new beginning. I'm not going to be the one to deliver the closing remarks, other than to, first of all, before I hand over to Yeye, that is Her Excellency Ambassador Olatokunbo Awolowo Dosumu, to declare the session closed. Let me, on behalf of all my listeners out there, let me first of all, with real sadness, bring to mind those who lost their lives in the last few days, those who lost their lives, both civilians and non-civilians, police officers killed, burnt alive, opening fire to protesters. Well, somebody may say, well, that was doctored, but I'm afraid heads wide open, intestine out, young people who died. My God. Was that really necessary? Could the conflict have been better managed? My heart goes out to all the mothers, all the wives, all the dependents, all those, the close associates, all those who, by the losses of the people who are no longer with us. My heart goes out to them. I pray that Almighty God will console them. I want to also reflect on horrendous amount of items of heritage in Lagos, smashed for whatever reason. I want to hope and pray, as the Archbishop said earlier on, how much really do we know, those of us who are even Yoruba, how much do we know about what it means to be a Yoruba? How much do we know about the importance of King's College that was smashed? The importance of the Palace of Lagos that doesn't belong to the current, to the incumbent monarch. I always refuse to refer to monarchs as traditional rulers because it's actually degrading the kings. They are kings. They are no traditional rulers. They are kings. If the Queen of England is referred to as a queen and not a traditional ruler, I want to see an end to this constant referring to our kings as traditional rulers, because to me, they are not the ones really responsible for how we feed our Usha. They are our abhorrence. Let me not digress. May the souls of all the departed, may their souls rest in peace, and may peace, everlasting peace, be restored to the four corners that currently constitute the Federal Republic of Nigeria. May cohesion be facilitated. May the angels of peace evolve from the corners of what is currently known as Nigeria, so that for once we will begin to find a way forward and long-lasting solution to the conflict, which dates back to, some would say, 1900, and that's a heck of a long time. On that note, Torera, I thank you very much. It's always wonderful. It makes me feel I'm young when I'm by your side, working together. Thank you for always being there. I'm so sorry. I want to thank you for being here, because all these fluctuations of network in Nigeria, you were quite concerned because you want to be a responsible young lady. Your parents should be very proud of you. I'm personally proud of you. It's only you I'm going to thank. And the rest of the thank yous, well, I have to leave all of that with the closing remarks and the declaration for the end of this session to go over to our wonderful mother, who is sitting in the seat of our sage today, Papa Obafemi Awolowo. Long may his legacy be meaningful to this generation and subsequent ones. I thank you, Yeye, for always being there. And on that note, I want to hand the final comments to you. Over to you, Yeye.
Thank you very much, Erelu, once again. When you organized this, when you started planning for this, we had no idea that the situation in Nigeria would be anything like what it has been in the last few days. But, God moves in a mysterious way, his wonders to perform. I have to thank all our guest speakers. Unfortunately, I think they've left us. They're all very busy people, and they probably have stayed longer than they had planned to stay. The Archbishop Ferron, and Professor Akiyemi, I think they both left us. But my thanks go to both of them for their words of wisdom and the erudition which they have brought to this session. I thank everyone. I thank Senator Kaka also, who has brought his experience to bear also, and who has given us insights, sometimes insights that we did not know about, that could help us moving forward in Nigeria, in our choice of leaders, in the electoral process, in the form and structure of government. He has said a lot, and I just hope that your voice in the company of your colleagues will not be drowned out. Finally, I would like to join Erelu in sending commiserations to everyone who has lost life or limb in the last few days. Our prayer has to be that we will not let their losses be in vain. I think it is our duty, those of us who are here, it is our duty to ensure that those losses are not in vain. The young people have tried to make their voices heard in the only way they felt was open to them. But my hope is that moving forward, this country will not allow herself to get to that point anymore, where young people would risk their lives in order to change things and to move things forward in Nigeria. And may the legacies of our founding fathers continue to endure, because their legacy, certainly Papa's legacy, was based on the development of everybody, every single individual, no matter how lowly their station in life or their station of their parents, and that everybody, equality of opportunity, if you just distill it right down, equality of opportunity, so that everyone has the opportunity to develop to the maximum of their potential. May Nigeria get to that point where every Nigerian will feel a sense of belonging, every Nigerian would feel that this country belongs to them and they to her. God bless us all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We've come to the end of this session. And dear viewers, thank you so much for joining us. We come to the end of another episode of Agba Kunitoni Ile Oodua. Ashe, it simply means, may our elders never diminish, never cease to exist. Let me add that being an elder is not just based on age, it's based on knowledge, it's based on understanding, and it's based on a lot more. It's based on being an effective leader. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of the newly formed Oodua Nation.